The Vizards, Shinji, Rose, and Kensei were reinstated back into the Gotei 13 as they had filled the voids left by Aizen, Gin, and Tozen. A Vizard is described as a Shinigami who has undergone hollowification. Because of this, they can utilize the abilities of a hollow to a varying degree. During the second invasion of the Quincy during the 1000-year Blood War arc, Urahara figures out that any form of hollowification is poisonous to a Quincy. Now, in general, the Vizards didn't get much of a showing during the final arc of Bleach. But in addition to this, a lot of fans are wondering why was it that they never utilized their hollowification abilities during the intense battle against the Quincy. We know that during the fight against Gerard, Hiyori, Hachi, and Lisa did in fact utilize their hollow masks, and even Mashiro hollowfies in order to train Hisagi in the outskirts of the Serete. But this is all that we really get to see of the Vizards using their hollow masks. Interestingly, it was the Vizard captains who had not utilized their hollow powers. So in this video, I'll be breaking down and analyzing the reasons why these captains had not used their hollow masks. Be sure to stick around until the very end of this video, as I'll be speculating whether if the Vizard captains had to agree to some sort of a pact to not use their hollow masks before they were reinstated into the Gotei 13, and how this may have been a requirement set in stone by the members of the Central 46. So without further delay, here is my video explaining the possible theories behind why Shinji, Rose, and Kensei did not hollowfy during the 1000-year Blood War arc. Discover the Undead Collection and be amongst the very first to join us on our journey over at getsuga.com. In chapter 552, Urahara reveals that he has discovered a weakness in the method that the Quincy's use to steal the Bankai from the Shinigami. By taking advantage of this weakness, it should allow the Shinigami to prevent their Bankai from being stolen, as well as having any Bankai that was stolen returned to their respective user. When Urahara had first learnt about the Bankai of the captains being stolen, he had decided to remain within Hueco Mundo. Urahara explains to Mayuri that the Arrancar Resurrection is practically the same as a Shinigami's Bankai. A Resurrection is the Zanpakuto release of an Arrancar. It fully releases the hollow form and the power of a Arrancar. So theoretically, the medallions that the Quincy used to steal the captain's Bankai could also be used to steal an Arrancar's Resurrection. Urahara noted how none of the Arrancar that he had encountered had their Resurrection stolen. We know that the Quincy were definitely interested in the Arrancar because they had recruited them into the Wandern Reich. So the Arrancar were powerful enough to be viewed as a useful military force, but despite this, their Resurrection was still not stolen. Now there could be only two possible explanations for this. One, either that they could not steal an Arrancar's Resurrection, or two, there would be some significant disadvantage to the Quincy if they did steal the Resurrection of an Arrancar. From all of the research that Urahara had conducted into the Hollows, Urahara determines that if any ability could steal a Bankai, then it would be able to also steal a Resurrection. Mayuri adds that the reason why Quincy did not steal the Resurrection of Arrancars was because of the fact that the Quincy race have no natural resistance to a Hollow's power. This means that every fiber of a Hollow is poisonous to a Quincy. If a Quincy's body is invaded by Hollow material, then it will not only weaken the Quincy's spiritual abilities, but it will also cause their very soul to collapse, resulting in their death. Kubo had demonstrated this to us via the Everything But the Rain flashback when Masaki Kurosaki had been hollowfied. Now given that Kubo had gone through such lengths to demonstrate how a Hollow's power is poisonous to Quincy, I find it rather strange as to why the Vizard captains did not utilize their Hollow powers during their battles against the Quincy. Let's now dive into several reasons as to why the Vizards did not hollowfy. The first plausible reason that I have is that the Central 46 may have issued orders for the reinstated Vizard captains to no longer use their Hollow masks while they are serving captains. This may have been done in order to reduce any risk of their powers going out of control, while also maintaining the reputation of the Soul Society, because the Shinigami are tasked with defeating Hollows, so it just wouldn't look good if Shinigami were using the powers of a Hollow. Given how Urahara was handed down a severe punishment during the Turn Back the Pendulum arc for supposedly hollowfying the Vizards, it would not be surprising to consider that the new members of the Central 46 are also very cautious when it comes to anything to do with hollowification. It's interesting to note, however, during the middle of the Thousand Year Blood War arc, Shunsui received permission from the Central 46 to release Aizen from prison. Therefore, this theory might not be the best one to put forward, because if one of the deadliest criminals of the Soul Society was released in order to defeat the Quincy, then it's more than possible that the Central 46 would have relaxed their restrictions on the Vizard captains, and more than likely they would have allowed them to hollowfy. Additionally, we do see Mashiro use a hollow mask, but of course this is outside of the Serite, where her hollowification abilities aren't really a threat to anyone else. There's also the slim chance that Mashiro was exempt from any rulings from the Central 46 since she isn't a captain but instead a co-lieutenant. Another reason could be that Kubo forgot that the Vizard captains can hollowfy, but when we consider the fact that Hachi, Love, Hiyori and Lisa attack Gerard all at once, this theory does lose its credibility. We could say that the Vizard captains just weren't that important in the grand scheme of things because they received very little screen time during the final arc. Kubo has created a huge cast of characters within Bleach, so it's understandably difficult to allocate time to every single one of them. The Vizards were introduced into the story in order to give some exposition about how Ichigo's hollow powers function, but as the story had continued and they had returned to help the Gote 13 fight against Aizen, their relevancy had slowly started to dwindle. With the defeat of Aizen, their story arcs are pretty much completed, and with the Vizards gaining acceptance once again from the Soul Society and being allowed to be reinstated into the Gote 13, it seems like Kubo did in fact do everything that he could do with these characters. I guess it's just disappointing when you wanted to see more of an iconic character like Shinji play more of a role in the final arc of the story. Now, when Kensei and Rose fought against Mask D Masculine from chapters 560 to 561, they both had utilized their Bankai abilities. Now, one reason as to why they did not hollowfy was because the process of hollowification may use up a lot of energy, or rather it increases the rate at which energy is expended while fighting. Fans have theorized that one of the weaknesses of hollowification is that you cannot use your Bankai and the hollow mask at the same time, or at least you can't use them together for a prolonged period of time. This will be due to the fact that a soul cannot split their powers between hollowification and Bankai if they were not born with a hollowified Zanpakuto spirit like Ichigo. Ichigo's hollowification and Bankai essentially comes from the same source, which is his Zanpakuto spirit Zangetsu or Hollow Ichigo. When the Vizards were training Ichigo in chapter 220, they revealed that staying hollowified for even more than 3 minutes would result in complete exhaustion. Additionally, Urahara explains when he was training Ichigo that the production of spiritual energy increases when a soul is in danger. When we consider the fact that the Vizards are imperfect hybrids, then this theory becomes more and more plausible. Aizen even stated that they are failed experiments. The first evidence is that they cannot stay hollowfied for more than 3 minutes, and the second piece of evidence lies in the fact that they can only use their Shikai plus a hollow mask, or alternatively a Bankai without a hollow mask, meaning that they are unable to hollowfy while in their Bankai forms. Tozen was a special exception to this rule because he was in fact able to use his Resurrection technique in addition to his Bankai because he was closer to being a complete hybrid Shinigami Hollow than the Vizards. The 1000 Year Blood War arc of Bleach provides the perfect opportunity for the main cast of Bleach characters to come together and battle against a formidable threat. While Kubo hasn't provided a perfect answer to this question, it is still really fun to theorize about this possible plot hole. Some fans, including myself, have speculated that the reason why the Vizard captains did not hollowfy was because they just simply didn't have enough screen time. For example, during episode 3 of the Core 2000 Year Blood War arc anime, Shinji had the perfect opportunity to showcase his Bankai abilities, and during his fight against Bambietta, he utilized his Zanpakuto's Shikai release Sakanade. Since Bambietta was temporarily overcome by Shinji's Shikai abilities, he did not necessarily have to use his hollow mask. Additionally, when Bambietta releases her holy form, Shinji did not have a chance to fight back as she quickly fired some Reishi bombs at him, incapacitating him. In a similar fashion, Kensei was outwitted by Mask D Masculine even after having used his Bankai. He was simply unable to see the counter-attack of James, and thus once again, Kensei did not have an opportunity to use his hollow mask. Now, the Bleach anime has been giving us a plethora of exclusive scenes, and Kubo has been storyboarding moments that were not included within the manga. Do I think that the Vizard captains are going to be getting some extra fight sequences in Core 3 and Core 4? I think that it's very likely. I would honestly love to see more of Shinji, and hopefully via the anime we can once and for all finally answer whether if the Vizard captains can in fact use their hollow masks while in the Gote 13. In this video, I've done my best to show you some of the most popular theories as to why the Vizards could not use their hollow hollow masks during the 1000-year Blood War arc. Hopefully this video has helped you to better understand the reasons as to why they weren't able to hollowfy, and how the anime may be changing all of this once Core 3 and 4 release. Now we've reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What do you think about all of the theories that I proposed in the video? Were you guys disappointed that the Vizard captains did not use their hollow masks? What additions are you expecting for Core 3 and Core 4, which will hopefully improve the characters of Shinji, Kensei and Rose? And lastly, if there's anything that I've forgotten to mention about this topic, then definitely let me know by leaving a comment under this video. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this one, and I cannot wait to see you in my next Bleach video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.